Hey, Coach, so glad you found us. A couple things. First of all, go subscribe and like. That really does help us a lot. That's the first thing. Second thing is go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's down in the show notes. Hundreds of videos, office hours, one-on-one calls, my personal email address. I will help you become a better basketball coach. So go over and check it out, teachhoops.com, and let's head off to the video.
Coaches, welcome to another episode of Coaching Youth Hoops. I am your host, Coach Bill Flitter. You can see that is not Steve Collins today. We have Justin Bredeman. He is the CEO of Stronger Youth Brands, which owns Soccer Shots. And you're asking yourselves right now, a soccer coach on the Coaching Youth Hoops podcast? Absolutely, Justin.
Slow day on the pod. I got it.
See, he was
Yeah,
the only guy we could
the
get
only
this
guy that
week.
ever,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Everybody else
available.
is playoffs, basketball playoffs, soccer season is over, right? No. Justin, welcome to the show. We appreciate having you on. We really, I think it's really beneficial for different sports to get together and learn from one another, have different voices. So can you tell us who you are, who Stronger Youth Brands is, where you're from, a little bit of background in your history?
Sure. Hey, Bill, thanks so much for having me on the
Yeah.
show. And yeah, when it comes to just youth sport in general, huge fan. I grew up playing basketball, volleyball, and of course, soccer, swam a little bit. So I know that what we'll be covering today will be applicable for hopefully all listeners involved in youth sport. But for me, it started way back when I was, let's see, 5 years old. I started playing soccer when soccer was far from being cool in Southern California. Um, I moved around a lot as a kid, so I didn't go to any one school more than two consecutive years. My
Oh,
family
wow.
three states, two different times, California, Virginia, and Georgia. And sport and soccer in particular was always just I don't know, grounding place. Always found, a team, a caring coach. Maybe they didn't always know what they were doing, but and just fell in love with the sport. It's something that I could go out in the backyard and juggle or work on my game and plug in and practices in games with kids. And that was just kind of a common place and a place of belonging for me, regardless of whether I was in one place at one time or different states, different schools. So I've just loved sport and soccer in particular. I met two of my now business partners, Jason Webb and Jeremy Sorzano, at Messiah College. It's a D3 private college outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Um, we were a pretty good team back then. They got even better when we left. 4 years later, they won a national championship, and then proceeded to win 11 of those in 17 years. So that
Wow.
had a really good kind of coaching staff there, a strong culture, and there was certainly things that we picked up in that experience that we've applied to soccer shots. Jason and Jer, they went on to play at USL level, so level below the MLS, good soccer players. I went on to pursue a career in franchising of all things. So I worked for Auntie Anne's hand rolled soft pretzels, and worked for them for about 9 years. But while I was there, Jason and Jeremy kind of discovered, I would say, a niche of soccer training, soccer programs for
And when
children.
was this? What
Yeah,
year?
this was back in the mid to late 90s.
Okay.
So let's say I graduated undergrad in 96. And so I'd say this 98, 99, yeah, 2000. And they happened upon this like program. It was very fledgling. There were like five locations in childcare centers. And
Hmm.
Jeremy, who is enthusiastic. He's fantastic with little kids. He was sent out to these five childcare centers to run a little soccer program, and realized, wow, this isn't being offered anywhere. I mean, back in that time, there wasn't a whole lot for younger children, certainly not in childcare space. There was some dance for mostly girls, but soccer and enrichment was not really being taken to where the kids were in childcare and preschool
Yeah.
settings. And so Jason was playing down there at Charlotte, the Charlotte Eagles with Jeremy, saw what he was doing. He was the first one to kind of take that concept of bag of balls, cones, going out to those childcare centers and running basically little soccer clinics. And he took this concept up to Harrisburg, PA, where he was from. And that was the first time it was kind of replicated. Um, they had a few friends that sniffed this out, thought this was a neat thing to do.
Yeah.
And at the time, once again, I was at Annie Ann's. They asked me, what's franchising about? How's this work? And I liked what they were doing. One thing led to another. I gave them a little bit of counsel. They formed a franchising company. Um, and back in 2000 and let's see, when was this? 2005. I actually joined them in partnership with Soccer Shots. So the three of us partnered together to build a franchise system, recruiting and training franchisees, um, supporting them. And that's kind of what we've been doing for a long time now.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
20 years. That's
yeah,
amazing. Good for you. And the
been a good
amount, I
run.
can't even imagine how many kids you influenced over that time. It's got to be impressive.
Oh yeah, listen, franchising is a pretty cool model. I know, we talked about that in a previous pod,
Yeah,
but just it allows us to scale, allows us to invest in owners who know the area, who are, have a heart for children, and are good business people. And it's allowed us to scale in ways that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. We're in
yeah.
what, 43 states and about 160 franchisees. And this year we should serve close to 750,000 kids. So
That's
that's
amazing.
it's
Now,
pretty fun.
I have to assume, or I shouldn't, how many of those third and fourth graders, right, are now coaches?
Yeah, how about
That,
it?
that's
Well, we
crazy.
are celebrating our 20th birthday anniversary this year, and so yeah, we're doing a little bit of research on kind of
Yeah.
where some of our alums are and
Where are they now, right?
where are they now,
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to kind of retell those stories.
Elon Musk, didn't he play? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Did we succeed? I don't know. Uh,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna dive into what I was fascinated about was the soccer shots philosophy, kind of training and development,
Yeah.
age appropriate development. I mean, training and development for coaches, but then age appropriate development for the kids, your philosophy around the impact off the field and what you're trying to do. And well, I thought we all could benefit from learning more about those things. Again, it doesn't matter if it's soccer, volleyball, or basketball. We can use some of these same teachings and philosophies across all sports. So
That's right.
I'd love to start off with your concept of soccer islands.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, what are they? Where did that come from?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe start at a 30,000 foot level and then we get to
yeah,
Soccer Island. You know, if I were to really boil down soccer shots and maybe just any youth sport, as
yeah,
terms of like what kids want out of it, and I think it's two things. It's got to be fun and fulfilling, right?
yeah.
It's like
Hmm. Yep,
kids need to have fun, especially at the ages that we're working with. But I would maybe argue that at any level, you want to have fun,
hmm,
playing that sport. Um, and we know that children stop playing sport mostly because it stops being fun.
hmm,
But I also think that like, well, you can have fun, outside, run around with your buddies. Fulfilling part is more intentional. It's just as intentional of like, are the children learning something? Are they being challenged? Do they feel
Right.
like they're
Yeah.
accomplishing something, right? And so, at Soccer Shots, really working towards ensuring that the experience is fun and fulfilling. And there's then, a lot that we can talk about and how do we make that happen. Um, you're referring to something that we discovered early on. And probably most of what we're going to talk about today, I don't know if there's any one thing that somebody's going to be like, Eureka. Yeah, I never
Yeah.
thought of
Right.
it.
Exactly. Right.
But
Yeah.
it's maybe the
Yeah.
combination of
That's
things.
right.
It's the,
Yeah.
the continued investment in them. Maybe we'll talk about something that just kind of
Well,
reminds
and
coach to
what you
do.
said earlier too, which is hearing from a different voice.
Yeah.
Important. We were talking about our kids
Sure.
earlier.
I mean, we just learn,
Uh,
right? I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like when you
Exactly.
watch
Yeah.
somebody coach or you have a conversation with somebody who's doing what you're doing somewhere else. It's so helpful. But the Soccer Island came about when we realized that the use of like imagination in a sports context is really effective.
Mm.
So we're working with children ages 2 to 8. Now, a 2-year-old learns very differently than an 8-year-old. And so, when I'm kind of we have broken that down so that it's kind of age dependent and age appropriate. But Soccer Islands is typically kind of a 3 to 5-year-old or classics program. And what we've done is, with our lesson plans, our curriculum is kind of create a little world that makes sense to a 4-year-old, right?
Okay.
So if I'm a coach and I walk out with 8 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds too, and I'm just like, okay, guys, there's the field. See the cones? Okay, okay, don't go outside the cones. That's out of bounds. You need to stay on the field. Because I don't know, because in the game you can't play outside of it. You explain something like that, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay, I don't even." You get into it and be like, "Okay, okay, guys, this is Soccer Island. Outside the island is an ocean. Does everybody been in the ocean? Yes. Okay. What lives in the ocean? Fish. Yes. Right. Right. You know what also lives in the ocean? Sharks. Our sharks like to eat soccer balls. We need to keep on the island with soccer balls. We need to keep now. You know, oftentimes we've dropped our cones. We should prepare for lesson. And what's outside, that field, of course, when you're dealing with 8 3 and 4-year-olds, is that there's distractions, right? There's a gym over there, and there's like maybe there's some danger, right? Mostly we have fenced in areas when we're in childcare centers, but you just want to keep them contained.
Yeah.
So some of it's practical of just like keeping them engaged in a world that is captures their imagination. And then you kind of start getting into like, hey, we're on an island and your soccer ball is a coconut, right? Oh, coconut, okay. And you start kind of talking about, if we're doing a certain drill around changing directions and slaloming, and there might be cones that are palm trees. And so this type of like play or
Mm.
imaginative kind of like world,
Yeah.
we found to be just an effective platform for training and for children to kind of engage and behave, I'd say, in a positive way. I mean, you're trying to, we have 3 rules at Soccer Shots. It's, listen to your coach, believe in yourself, and try your best. So these are the 3 rules that we always go over before and after to ensure that the children have kind of a framework for what's going on and what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's the Soccer Island is a term that we've coined and used, but there's a lot of other kind of imagination that goes into certain lesson plans, um, we might be talking about dinosaurs or,
Mm. Hmm.
machines, animals, that sort of thing. So that's a little bit of the background on Soccer Island.
I love that concept. Just again, bringing a different element to something that they can relate to, and it is imaginative and it is fun, and yeah, you've made it fun. And so now let's take that same idea, and I'm putting you on the spot right now. Okay,
No,
so I'm putting on your
I-
spot. Translate that maybe for some basketball coaches. I think it's loud and clear. You take that exact same concept, apply it to third grade basketball, right? Because you got the perimeter of the court and and go outside of that, right? We're on an island, ball. But now let's keep on going up in age, right? So when you kind of get to that middle school, one of the things that, because I always try to bring that visual aspect, and I was teaching kids, this is fifth and sixth grade girls, the concept of trapping and where we want to trap. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I put down, there's this drill that I do, and I put a bunch of orange cones down, and then I put in the trapping zones, I put the blue cone.
Mhm.
Okay. So now, now forever, the trapping zones are called trap in the blue cone zone, right? Right? So it's,
Yeah.
it has now become the blue cone zone. Got trap in the blue cone zone, right? And they just kind of picked that concept up themselves and really embraced it. Blue cones, right? Oh, blue cones means trap, right? So they associated that with that. So we try to, I still, at every level, in my eighth grade team and high school team, I always try to draw, just make it a little fun, right?
Yeah.
So we don't lose that, they don't lose their imagination. And but so
Well, I think
here we go.
you're onto something, Bill. I
Yeah.
think there's something that does it evolves. We're not talking
Hmm.
about, sharks eating soccer balls with 8-year-olds typically, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but you start getting into like you've coined a phrase, or you've maybe there's a little silliness that sticks in their head,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That maybe, you technically can explain that, but if you have a funny reference, or something that's sticky, that allows a child to be like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
That's um I mean, just even, just thinking of some of the things, um it's not really a training device, but it's something that that the other day I met a coach of ours, and her name was Mac.
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, Coach Mac." She goes, "But all my kids call me Coach Mac and Cheese," and it
Yeah.
was kind of like it's to me, it's like, hey, how do you creatively like engage? And you got to know your audience. I think you have to know your age group.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's a big part, I think, to soccer shows. And I think, like I said, at any age of
At
like, how
any
do
age.
you get this
Yeah.
so it's fun.
Well, and we talk about when we're pivoting for the younger girls, and sometimes for the older girls, I'll even say this too. But pivot when you bring the ball over your head from one side to the other. We call those rainbows.
There you go.
And then from if you go the opposite way from your hip to your ankle to the cross and then up, we call those unicorns because it's the letter U. So we talk about rainbows and unicorns when we're doing pivoting, right? For the
Okay.
younger girls that, they always get a chuckle out of that and a smile and they're just drawing those pictures in their heads. The other
Yeah.
thing I think helps too in this is rhymes, sit, hit, go get, we talk about, or we
Mhm.
also talk about the ABCs of basketball. And I have this whole list of ABCs, always be cutting and screening, right? As an example. So it's like
Mhm.
we break the game down into the very basics,
Uh-huh.
right? And even, phrases I say over and over and over space is your offense. If you have space on offense, right, you can create a lot of space, space, space. And then I have the girls, I'll yell out, you know, what's the most important thing in offense? And they space,
Mhm.
so they get used to like, so then now when I'm on the sidelines, I just have to say one word, space,
Mhm.
right? And they
Yeah.
get okay, oh yeah, okay. Versus hey, a long sentence of right trying to
Right.
explain
That's
what
a
I'm trying to
shortcut,
get
right?
across.
It's
So
a
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
shortcut that your players can understand.
yeah,
And some ways you've they're rainbows and unicorns. You've also introduced something kind of lighthearted and maybe brings a smile, but it delivers a message, right?
that's
It's
right.
something
Yeah.
that get to them quickly, and they can execute all the time, right, Bill?
Right. And I think that's the idea of what you're trying to get across with the soccer island is just bringing some imaginative thinking to instruction and teaching and age appropriate short you know drawing or saying one word, but it has this huge picture in their mind of what what it is, right? So yeah, I think that's so important when you're teaching kids. We have to remember that at their brains are developing, and what they know at third grade and what part of their brain is developed versus eighth grade is a huge difference. And we have to tap into where they're at. And maybe you can talk about that too. Like you said, second grade or second, or sorry, 2 year olds to 8 year olds. Their brains are completely different, right? There's a huge difference between a second and an 8 year old, or 2 year old and 8 year old. How do you teach them, or what is your suggestion to your coaches to teach them differently,
Yeah.
if it is?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've some of this has been trial and error. I'd say over the 20 years, though, the last
Yeah.
probably 10, bringing in folks on our team that have, early childhood education background and
Mm,
have
yeah.
leaned into kind of research on how best to coach and teach
Yeah.
two-year-olds versus a five versus 8-year-old. And so really doing our best to like incorporate those things. It's like, let's take passing and trapping for us in
Hmm.
soccer, right? Or you passing a ball, trapping it, getting it under control and hitting it back. A 2-year-old, we're talking about sharing, you know, we're
Mm,
talking about something called a puppy pass. We're not A 2-year-old cannot open up her ankle and knock it with the inside of her foot. Like they just physically aren't able to do that. Whereas an
hmm.
8-year-old actually can start doing that. And so we're both teaching passing and trapping, but it's like understanding kind of where's where's the target of what we can teach and expect a player to learn. And I think there's obviously the same thing is true in basketball where
Yeah.
we're even the passing and trapping for two. The kids aren't moving up and down the field. They're stationary. They're close. They're kind of toe balling it. The ball's going,
Yeah.
but the concept of and you start really better under and space. You want to talk about space? Good grief. We've all watched like little magnet ball of soccer. Um, and I think that what we have done at least at Soccer Shots and Little Kickers is being able to understand what is needed at each of those levels and incorporating that into curriculum, into the coach's training. One thing that I think is two things that come to mind that we've learned and we've taught this for a long time
Hmm.
is, you know, I'm 6'2". At the peak of my powers, I was 6'2". Maybe I'm a little shorter now that I'm old. But little kids, when we're working with them, right? I gotta get down on the level.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've got to like
Yeah.
eye level.
Hmm.
Um, I'd say our younger coaches often default to raising their voice. What's interesting is if you actually lower it and you kind
Hmm.
of lean in, they mirror that.
Right.
They come in. Hey, let's come here. I want to tell you something. And it's these kind
Yeah.
of tips that are appropriate for that age group that like allow for a better experience, allow for the coach to have, I'd say, appropriate kind of control of a group of children and lends them to having a better receptivity to what you're about to share with them. So I think there's a number of things. It's like there's a appropriate like what are we trying to teach them, but it's like how do we go about
Yeah.
communicating with them and
That's
teaching them?
right.
That's big.
Yeah, and you're right on with that. I mean, again, it's these little things that you learn over your course of coaching. And what we're trying to do here with the podcast is get coaches down that learning curve a lot quicker, right? And to pick these little things out because they are so important. And you'll, if anything, you'll feel less frustrated as a coach, right? Okay, here's the ultimate question. Have you figured out spacing? Every
No.
sport, right?
Yeah,
Like you said,
it's
magnet
hard.
ball.
It's hard.
So, what's your
But
secret?
yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, that's a tough one. I
I
would
know.
throw in one other, I don't know where we're going to go from here, but one
Yeah,
thing that's not related to spacing, but is related, I think, to any if you've coached for any amount of time, is working with and this has been helpful for us with small children, is like there's always a kid who's a little bit of a troublemaker, you know,
always. Yeah, yeah,
who's not paying attention or causing issues. And one thing that we really are we kind of emphasize is kind of incorporating that so-called troublemaker into like a helper, you know,
yeah.
as picking up for us, it's picking up cones. It's like helping, you know, everybody put their balls back in the bag and keeping that person, that little kiddo busy. Um, So anyway, there's all sorts of tips and tricks that we've incorporated, and I know that probably you have too.
Yeah, and again, it's a lot of this stuff is just what you learn over the years and trial and error, like you said in the beginning, right? And trying to figure out, the appropriate level of skill development at every age, how to talk to the kids, how to break the game down into small little pieces for them. I think a big thing is also, we've talked about is like what to teach when, right? Um, I'm not a soccer player, so like, but in basketball, I know I'm not going to teach them how to defend a screen until they're,
Right.
sixth, seventh, eighth. Versus like, I had a third grade coach. Are we going to teach them how to defend a screen? I'm like, heck no, no way. It's
Yeah.
just so complex, right? So you
What
have to
would you
learn that
say?
stuff.
I mean, for those listening and maybe not haven't read
Yeah,
up on that, what for you, what's the kind of the first couple of things that, a coach should really focus on for young players?
like skill development wise.
Yeah, skill development.
Yeah, uh, you know, the players will always shoot. They know little ball goes into big hoop.
Yeah.
So for the young ones starting second, third, fourth grade is a little bit better, but definitely second, third, it's all just being comfortable with the ball in their hand.
Yeah.
And just some general, what's the defensive stance, right? How do you defend? Um, or where do I defend? When do I defend? Right? All these little concepts that if you've been playing for years, we take for granted. But a young player who's on offense, sometimes you see them defending because they think, no, I'm going to recruit them because, man, they love defense, right? So,
Nice to have
but
those on
anyway,
the team.
yeah, so and the transition, especially in basketball, you're playing both sides, right? When do you do, what do you do, how do you do it? So it's just like the lines on the floor, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of my day one practice is go step on the 3-point line, free throw line, and they all just, they run to the different lines. Uh, but ball handling is a huge thing, just keeping a ball in their hand and dribbling. Um, you know, we don't focus on in the young age, like shooting, because one, they're just not, they got to use two hands and all their power to get the ball up. So,
Leave it up there. Yeah.
yeah, just heave it up. And they know where it goes,
Yeah.
right? So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, but anyways, there's just very basic
Yeah. It's good.
skills, we'll focus on. So let's dive into, I'll give you an example of what I teach. We've come up with a framework called Red Dot, and I know you have your frameworks as well. And it's the red part, RED, is the game on the court, and it's what I believe every coach that I'm directing should follow or prioritize because it can help win games. The dot part is the game in the head, right? Which is your biggest opponent a lot of times as a young athlete. So red stands for rebounding, efficient scoring, and defense. If we can out rebound the other team, if we can score without the ball touching the ground or as efficiently as possible, and we dive into what that actually means. And then, of course, defense wins championships, right? We've heard that for years, right? And you can put pressure, take away space on defensive side, you're going to win games. Then the dot is drive open together. So drive is the energy and effort you bring
Mhm.
to open is being coachable, and then the T is together. So there's no individuals. We love each other. We're doing this together. And we bring that to life as well. So before every game, every practice, you get a red dot. Do I still? My hand is probably stained. You actually can see it, but
Oh yeah.
you
Sure,
put it
that's
right
not you weren't
here.
clubbing. You're not clubbing, Bill.
Yeah, not clubbing. Yeah, no,
Oh,
no, no.
okay. That's
So between your index finger and your thumb, we put a little red dot because that's a pressure
nice.
point. And so when, not if, when anybody, including me, make a mistake, we just say we push that and we push the red dot and we say next play, right? Uh, and so what all of this stuff allows me to do, well, and even here I have it sitting on my desk. At the end of every practice, we give out red dots.
Sweet.
And one player starts us off, and then it's pure recognition. I want to give a red dot to Justin. He was really focused today, played great defense. And then Justin, you get to give one out, and we give out three a night. So then it's peer-to-peer recognition of your teammates, right? And by putting that into that framework, right? All I have to do in a game then too is, especially the next play stuff, is just, hey, next play, right? And they know what to do. Like, okay, I can see them like, oh, just missed that wide open layup and they're running up the court. I'm like, that's it. You're done. You got to move on now. You push the red button, reset, go up the other side. So it's these quick little things that
Yeah.
we want to teach the kids just to be mentally strong. But then, what do we practice first? It's all the red stuff, rebounding, efficient scoring, defense, right? We can land those three things, then all the other stuff will come too, and we'll win games.
Bill,
So,
I love that construct. I really like the sport as in life. You're there's going to be some failures. You're not going to hit every shot you take, and
no,
and it's just the mental
yeah,
kind of that meant the reset, I think, and even the red dot of just pushing that, or really does deliver kind of a really clean message and
yeah.
helps on the mental side of things, doesn't it?
Well, it's manifests it in real life. It's a physical action. It's not just something I'm thinking. I'm physically doing something. So it's connecting all the senses. And then with the red dot after every game and every practice, right? That also brings like a physical reward to
Mm,
hard work and recognition. So, um,
fantastic.
yeah.
I love it. It's great.
So can you dive into like your philosophies like that, or
Sure.
your some of your frameworks that would help coaches, uh, just coach better?
Yeah, and maybe without being able to like showing some of these things, I'll do my best to kind of describe and walk
Yeah.
through what we've got. A while back we did put together kind of a philosophy, coaching philosophy that has a number of tenets um,
And
that
before you start that, I think I want
sure,
to emphasize something that I think I don't want to overlook,
yeah.
especially for you. These things are really important for you because one, you franchise, you have there's 750,000 kids this year, and you have, did I get that 300 plus coaches
Well, those would be we
or
have
franchisees?
165 franchisees. Now it depends
Okay.
on how big the franchise is and how many coaches we have.
Yeah.
There's several, yeah, there's thousands of coaches that we do
Thousands
have.
of coaches. Yeah, so you have 165 franchisees, which, if you kind of know the franchise model, it has to be standard. It is nearly the same, right? You go in one McDonald's, it's the same as another McDonald's, right? It's the same menu, etc. So to have frameworks and curriculum is extremely important for you, and it has to work.
Yeah. So and maybe just a little description of what, a typical soccer shot session might look like will be helpful as a reference point. Because I
Okay.
know,
Yeah,
once again,
perfect. Yeah.
you've got coaches out there that have a team and that you're building on, you're playing games, et
Yeah.
cetera. A lot of different age groups too. So we are dealing with, in most cases, some of the youngest, participants, in many cases, the first time involved in the sport.
Yeah.
Um, we are at a hosted location, so we might be in a preschool or a child care center. We might be in a park in a public setting. We may have parents around that place. Maybe the parents aren't there, but we've got child care teachers milling around, and so we've got a coach that is coming in and having, children who have signed up for our program one time a week for about 30 to 40 minutes. And so it might be a season of 10 or 12 weeks. So you kind of think of each
Hmm.
of the sessions as almost like it's not a standalone clinic, although it can stand alone. We are building on each of the preceding lessons. But a
Okay.
week goes by, you're with a 4-year-old or five. So there's quite a bit of repetition. I think
Yeah.
that you need for that. And there's things that kids forget. There's also confidence built in continuing to practice and relearn or work on what was previously taught. So
Yeah.
there's a combination of like consistent things that you'd see every session at Soccer Shots, with slight changes. So, the structure of our lessons will always be the same. There will be an introduction. There would be kind of a review of the rules. I think I've mentioned we've got 3 rules: listen to your coach, believe in yourself, and try your best. And so, those things will always be there. Character words. We've incorporated over time, a character word for a particular session. So
Hmm.
there's now, depending on the age group,
Yeah.
for the younger ones, we might have only 3 character words, continue to repeat those throughout the season. For
Okay.
older ones, we'll incorporate other character words. But, for example, determination might be a character word, with kind of a simple definition. So up front, we work hard and never give up, right? And determination, right? And there's you're
Yeah.
you're you're clapping it through. There's a call and response, and then that particular character word, as you can imagine, is woven through the lesson,
Nice.
where the games, right? The coach is prompted to kind of remind, what does determination mean? We work hard and never give up. All right, Susie, keep trying,
Mm-hmm.
need
Yeah.
determination. So, and I think we know this, that sport is so perfect for kind of lessons to be taught.
Absolutely.
I think what we've learned for this younger age group is that we need to be intentional in calling that out. And we need to be able to like prompt coaches to show when, for the example I've given, determination is being shown, and then encourage children when determination maybe needs to be shown. And and so that's a big part of soccer shots is kind of naturally, but intentionally, incorporating character concepts in a simple form in the sport, in the activities. But then there's a warm up, and then there's a skill review or a skill introduction. It could be a skill review. And then there's a fun game incorporating that skill. And then we actually get into playing soccer. So it kind of looks like soccer, where it's a scrimmage, a small-sided scrimmage, where, it does build on itself. What you see in the very beginning, especially for the young ages, is it's kind of a mess, where you're kind of resetting. We've got tips on how to kind of run this, and you have, one side and pennies, one side not, and kind of going to one side to the other. We reset, go back to your goals. Now go back and you put the ball down, and we talk a little bit about which goal do you need to score on, which goal do you need to defend. What does
Mm.
defend mean? So, so I'd say that like there's a structure that's super important, and then within that structure, there's a prescription of like what coaches need to be doing along with videos. And so I think that's has been big for us too, of like, to give a blueprint to someone is great, but how do you get that how do you breathe
Yeah.
life into that?
Hmm.
Um, and so um, character development, huge, always skills. I mean, we're very kind of skill focused. And I think when it comes to the game, the older that they get, the more we're playing, we'd say real soccer. But all the games incorporate like a dribbling skill, or perhaps we're working on shooting or passing, receiving, uh, change of direction, and the like.
Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah, and the and we talked about this before uh off air, which was this idea there's no shortage of information that exists, right? About soccer, about basketball. It's the organization of that into a curriculum that really matters the most. And that's really what you guys are doing. That's what we're doing.
You too.
Coaching Youth
Yeah.
Hoops, yeah, yeah, is doing. And it's learned over several years and iterations and feedback of what the best way the best way to organize that information. And the thing that I also love about what you guys do is that character development piece, even at that young of an age where, they're not, it's a harder concept net probably for them to grasp, but sometimes it's the first time, just like they're learning soccer, first time they heard about determination and what that means. It's a big, that's a big word, right? For a second, third grader
Right.
or a second or 2-year-old, a third and a 3-year-old. One of the things that I always say, and it helped me in the last, I would say 6, 7 years of coaching was it dawned on me. It's like, I'm not coaching basketball. I'm coaching confidence. And I'm
Yeah.
just doing that on the basketball court. And when I changed that mindset, my coaching changed drastically. From the X's and O's to being a little bit more patient, being a little bit more understanding, breaking the skills down, looking at things outside the basketball world that will help them build their confidence. How I say, what I say, all of that thing just completely changed.
Bill, I think, yeah, one of the big things that I haven't really mentioned is just a certain enthusiasm and positivity that goes into,
Right.
I think,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to like simply just high fives. Kids love
Oh,
high
yeah.
fives. Kids love them. Right?
Claps,
Kids get
right?
claps, high
Yeah.
five, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Fist bumps. Yeah.
you know, knowing the kids' names from the outset. Um, but we get, I've mentioned this previously, we have something called the Net Promoter Score, which is
Yeah.
a survey sent out to parents about their experience, their child's experience. It's so heartening to get accounts of like a mom who's like, my daughter was petrified in the very beginning. And at the
Yeah.
end, she couldn't wait to go to soccer shows.
Hmm.
A lot of that is coach's ability to like bring that little girl out of her shell or little boy, and being able to make them feel comfortable. And there's a growth in confidence there where they start, believing in themselves. Oh, they're being
Yeah.
celebrated for scoring a
Yes.
goal. Oh, by the way, this is fun, enjoy being with kids, my own age. And so in a short amount of time, yeah, you do like I don't we don't get to see, although I'm hoping we'll find somebody who's gone on to play professional soccer, but that's not what the goal is for us,
Right. Right.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
goal, we've got a vision statement is to provide a beloved growth experience for every child, a remarkable experience for every family. We do that through soccer, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Right.
there's that experience is not only just learning soccer skills in the game. So,
Yeah. And the feedback you get, you can that's measurable based on the net promoter score, which is, now are they going to come back a second time or the third time, right? So that's if the coach is doing his or her job, then that child is going to come back. And yeah, and I think enthusiasm. I mean, we've all been there. There's days that I don't want to go to basketball practice. I just had a bad day at work, right? A long day at work, whatever. But man, as soon as I step on that court and see those kids, I'm like, okay, I don't want to be any place but here, right? For the next hour and a half, right?
And, and Bill, I think one of the things that I'm reminded of when I read those comments from parents, I'm reminded of something that I know to be true in my own life, and I know to be true like through I have I have three kids. Two of my sons played soccer, and it's amazing how much influence and impact coaches have
Yeah, yeah,
and what they wield when it comes to ability
absolutely.
to encourage, and unfortunately it can be destructive, but to
Hmm.
to really get children to grow and to be confident and to be determined. And so yeah, I think that's something that's like for us once again at Soccer Shots, and maybe just encouragement to any coach that's listening, like you're making a difference. Yeah, it doesn't mean that
Right.
not many of our players are going to go on to play D1 basketball or soccer, and that's hopefully not necessarily the goal for us in youth sport. It isn't at Soccer Shots, but
Yeah,
it's rewarding.
and I think what we're both saying is you have to have, as a coach, you have to have your why. Why are you doing this? And it has to be beyond, in my opinion, of course, the wins and the losses, or the wins really, right? But also beyond the skill that you're teaching or the sport you're teaching. It's got to be at a deeper level. If, again, in my opinion, if you're going to be an effective coach that does influence your
Yeah,
players, right? You
that's
got to
right.
care. You got to care, right? I
Indeed.
and dive into that a little bit too, as your franchisees have to hire coaches. What are you
Mhm.
looking for? And again, basketball, we have to hire coaches all the time, right? Is it the most skilled coach? Is it a coach that, they all have to have, all have to play before? Well, what characteristics go into finding, or what is the perfect coach for you guys?
I have a little acronym for you, Bill.
Yeah, great. I
So
love acronyms.
we're worked around it. SCORE, safety conscious, caring, organized, responsible, and enthusiastic. And I think,
Yeah.
we've built out some questions and that we've equipped franchise owners to ask to kind of gauge how candidates rate in those areas. One of the maybe more surprising things folks might learn about this is we actually don't need folks who have played a high level of soccer.
Mm-hmm.
We've developed some strong coaching training. I think a curriculum is very strong. Um, and so what we need folks who, yes, are caring, willing to get a little silly, a little silly, a
Yeah.
little enthusiastic, get into it. Like I've talked about breathing life into the curriculum. Um, we also, for our purposes, because we're working in child care centers and preschools, there's a certain maturity that we're looking for. So, we've had some amazing stay-at-home mom coaches, for example,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
want to get out for a couple days. They drop their own kids off at grandma's house and they come and they coach, going
Yeah.
into a child care center, and maybe they've played a year or two of high school soccer, but that's kind of a profile. We have some good college age kids as well, but they're not always the most responsible. I can speak that way because I've got some college age kids myself.
Yeah. I know.
Um,
Yep.
Pseudo adults, Bill. They're getting
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I there's um, walking into a place of business and, leading children out and setting up the field and, conducting this takes somebody who has some maturity and responsibility, but also can get a little silly and
Yeah.
follow
Especially the age group you're working with
right.
is important, really important. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of maybe clubs don't grow is because of finding quality coaches. And I like your idea of the score framework. Again, have an idea of who's the perfect coach. So from what I heard you say, though, you could teach an old basketball coach like me. I could be teaching soccer. Is
You
that
could be
right?
great at. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because, not a while back, I was
Yeah.
asked to coach basketball, and
Okay.
I was this close to saying yes.
Really?
And I think if I were given the same tools that like you providing your basketball coaches,
Yeah.
I think I would have said yes, even though like I've coached soccer, and just giving some direction and giving some like training. And I think there's for us, I'd go back to soccer shots. There's a lot of people who like they love kids and
Right.
they are
Yeah.
responsible. We do, we're for profit. We do pay a fair wage for that. And so, there's tools to kind of help mold a candidate who qualifies and who maybe, I don't know if I can to, no, you can. Here's how you do it. And that is a key, I think, for scaling as well. I think for too many organizations, there's an accidental approach to finding coaches. You've got somebody who's played, who
Right.
knows the
Yeah.
game, knows kids. That's a bit of a unicorn, and it's really hard to have an entire club comprised of folks like that year after year, you know?
Yeah, well, and our audience, is made up anything from a high school coach, club coach, down to a league that, needs parent volunteers. And a lot of times I hear from parents, I've never coached before.
Hmm.
Well, okay, you know, here's all the material here's the material, right? Here's the basics. And I think there's enough info, like you said, out there that and curriculum that, either you did or we've done to give you the confidence that you can coach and you should if you have this enthusiasm and care for the kids and you want to see them succeed. The other stuff is, there's no, it's not hard, right? It's not hard. You can learn it. Just like anything, just like learning a language, right? It is a language on itself. So, well, I'm going to still try to recruit you then for basketball. Get you on the court. But you got to remember one important thing
What's that?
that you dribble the ball with your hands.
Oh,
Okay?
got it.
You
Okay.
get a foul if you use your feet
Just
to move the ball up.
I'll
Okay.
need a reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, is there anything else that you want to share that I didn't cover? This has been an amazing interview, learning about your processes, learn about your philosophies, and I think that really is what comes down to what makes soccer shots an impressive organization, but just it doesn't matter. It's like you have to have some structure. You have to learn how to speak to kids. Your frameworks will really make your coaching life so much easier, even if you're a team of one, right? And versus a team of 1,000, right? What you guys are doing, but it doesn't matter.
No, no. Bill, maybe just one thing, and
Yeah.
it's something that I reflect on whenever we have operations training. So we've got
Okay.
several times a year we bring in new franchisees and key operators, many of whom are trained coaches.
Yeah.
One of the things that I hear and witness just repeatedly is the value of watching other people coach, going to other people's
Mm.
practices. Like, so for us,
Yeah.
we're so isolated as coaches. We do what we can. We're trying to focus on our team and how things are going. But to from time to time to just sit in, go on the bleachers or the sidelines and just watch another respected coach run a practice.
Yep.
Understand
Yep.
how are they communicating? What are they trying to train? And I think that kind of community is really helpful. Something we try to incorporate even within teams is, going and traveling and watching other soccer shots coaches to learn, also to give some feedback. It depends on how structured you want to be, but I just think that it's encouraging. It's a way of learning, um, And, if somebody's coming to watch you, there's also opportunity for some input and feedback, depending on what that relationship's like. But listen, I'm impressed with what you're doing with basketball and coaching and the curriculum and training devices that you're giving coaches. It's pretty impressive stuff. So appreciate that.
Oh, and yeah, thank you. And likewise, I think we have mutual admiration for what we're doing in different sports. And again, I can't say enough how, if you haven't, check out Soccer Shots if you're ever interested, coaches out there to start coaching soccer, or look for,
Yeah,
you have
please.
looking for a program for your kids, look to Soccer Shots, because what Justin and his team have done is absolutely amazing. And the level of detail is second to none. So we appreciate you having you on the show today, and look forward to, like I told you, seeing all those little signs out there of Soccer Shots in my own community, and just kind of smile and say, "Hey, Justin, I know that guy."
Bill,
So
well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really enjoyed it.
yeah, and keep up the great work out there to influence all the kids that you're doing, because that's going to change their lives. Coaches, thank you for tuning into another episode. I hope you enjoyed this one, and hope you're going to pull away some great nuggets for Justin. Until the next time, take care.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're enjoying the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. We love those. Also, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. If you want to become a better coach in less than $1 a day, you can do that. My mentor, my personal email address, I will help you become a better basketball coach. Go over and check it out. Let's head back to the video.